Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Energy Quick Chat where we rub minds with stakeholders and players in the energy markets. Copper prices are currently experiencing significant downturns. The red gold fell over 20% from their May peak and settled at $4.11 a pound as of Wednesday, July 24th. This marks the lowest point in over 3 months, with a sustained decline primarily driven by weakening economic indicators in China, which has also posed major challenges for copper-dependent nations like Zambia. Yet Zambia remains ambitious, aiming to double its copper output by 2027, backed by substantial investments from big mining firms worth about $7.5 billion. To help us gain more insights into the current state of Zambia's current market, I have here with me Peter Major, a director of mining at Modern Corporate Solutions. Peter, it's good to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Justina. It's a pleasure being here.
Great. Now, what's driving the price swings in the global copper market and where are they headed?
There's no doubt who's been driving these big price swings in metal prices. It's one country who we know, China. China's been consuming literally 50% and more of the world's major commodities, certainly on the metals. Half of the world's iron ore is going to China. Half plus of all the base metals. That means copper, lead, nickel, zinc, cobalt, all going to China. Chrome, probably more than half's been going to China. Manganese. It's incredible. One country out of 220 countries can take more than half the metals produced in the world. And that's what China's been doing for over 20 years now. But by doing that, China has raised itself from just barely third world status to they are convincingly first world status. China has caught up in probably double the time most commentators and economists thought they could ever catch up. It's an amazing achievement. The world's largest country can move up the ranks in GDP per person and overall. That's where the metal prices and volumes have been attributed to China. But now that it's reached that status, now that it's not growing at double-digit GDP every year, 11, 12, 13%, now it's growing still very high for any big country, but 5.5%. So this insatiable demand is leveling off a bit. And the rest of the world's kind of going, I'd say, not into a recession, but they're also leveling off. So I think we're seeing a more normalized offtake for all these metals. It's not a real fall in demand. It's just more normal. They don't need that huge growth in supply that they've needed for 20 years plus.
Right. Now, Zambia seems bullish about its production for 2025, but how will the price fluctuations we have seen impact production and exports, especially for producers in countries like Zambia?
You know what? Zambia has fallen to a 13-year low in copper production. So they've missed a lot of this really incredible run in metal prices the last 13 years. Congo's taken good advantage of it. South Africa has really missed out for the last 13 years. It's like they're bedfellows here. And unfortunately, Zambia has been almost as poorly ruled as South Africa for the last 15 years. And that's what happens when you have misrule. The economy can't achieve what it should achieve. So we've had great world prices, and they're still very good. We say, copper's down to 411. There's not a person on this planet who would have been overjoyed if you told them the last 10, 15 years they could ever get to $4 a pound for copper. So yes, it's down from a peak of 460, 470. Copper was over $10,000 a ton. Now it's barely 9,100. Those are still great prices. Where Zambia has really fallen down is they've let their production fall. They let their investment fall. At this turn of this new millennia, the Congo and Zambia, they were the two darlings of Africa. They both received tens of billions of dollars in new investment. And the Congo's production went from 50,000 tons to one and almost a 500,000 tons. Zambia's production went from 200,000 tons up to 800,000, almost 850. But then their bad governments and policy caused them to fall from 850,000 tons a year down to less than 650. But now, with the election of the new president, he's trying to do whatever it takes to get the economy back on track, to get the legislation, and to make investors welcome in Zambia instead of running away. So even though the copper price is down from a high of 10,000 a ton to 9,000, if they can get production up another 200,000-300,000 tons, it will more than make up for that.
Great. Yes, like you said, Hichilema is really doing a lot to bring in big companies, pull investments that were lost over the past years. And I wanted to ask, are mining companies positioning themselves to cut production costs and maintain profitability amidst all of this?
Yeah, they really are. Mining companies have reacted very favorably to the election of the new president in Zambia. He immediately brought in a new mining minister and cleaned the table, said, gentlemen, please, can we talk? First Quantum, why have you canceled this $1.5 billion, $2 billion expansion? Vedanta, why are we still fighting in court? That you have not been paying taxes, that you owe creditors $250 million. Please, let's get in here and talk. Let's get out of the courts and let's talk. And that's what's happened. And Vedanta brought in a new CEO, Chris Griffiths, probably the most respected mining man in the world. Nobody's got a better track record than Chris Griffiths. And he's a man who gets things done. Great track record in Anglo American, good track record at Goldfields, and he wasn't there very long. It would have been better. It shows the new administration in Zambia, they want to do things right. They want to work with companies. And the companies have responded very favorably. Anglo American is going back into Zambia just about as fast as they can move. First Quantum immediately put in that capex and almost doubled it. Vedanta, they've settled very quickly. So they're doing what needs to be done, but they've got to do a better job and do it faster. Their infrastructure is worse than South Africa's. It hasn't been added to in 50 years.
That's really a pullback when it comes to mining our resources in Africa. And like you mentioned, Chris has really done a good job in pulling these resources together, making sure that investments, like I said earlier, are pulled back. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned Vedanta. How strategic is their return to Zambia's copper mining industry? Looking at how they were shoved out of the scene due to policy issues and all of that and debt problems. But how strategic is their return this time around?
Because copper is in such demand and Zambia has lots of copper, if they don't resolve things with Vedanta, say Vedanta wants to leave Zambia, they would have a real easy time finding someone to buy their assets, I think, and get running. Zambia is in a good position here. They wouldn't have any trouble finding another buyer for Vedanta's assets. And Vedanta wants those assets. Vedanta doesn't want to leave Zambia. And I think their actions have shown that, bringing in a new CEO, sitting down with the new president of Zambia, borrowing and finding the $250 million to pay creditors. And they admit they need $1 billion to get their operation where it was. They want to increase their production from below 200,000 tons a year to 300. So Vedanta currently is probably a 20% of Zambia's total copper production. And they want to get up to 25. And with Chris Griffiths, they can do it. So they're very important, but if things don't work out, there's other people. The world is looking for copper, and Zambia has it. So Zambia mustn't blow this opportunity.
Right. And it's a win-win situation if like you've stated, it's a win-win situation for them, because I saw Vedanta mentioning the fact that it was a good one for even India for them to be able to come back into Zambia. Now, beyond copper.
Very important.
Very important, yes. Now, beyond copper, what is Zambia doing to diversify its economy and reduce reliance on just the mining sector alone?
Not enough. Yeah. Mining, I think, is 11, 12% of their GDP. And there's nothing wrong with that if mining's been growing and the other industrial sectors have been growing as well. But they haven't been growing. And that's why Zambia's currency is so weak. It's got a lot of not moving parts. You know, you have to have a lot of moving parts in sync. And they haven't done that. The new president has battled to get his hand around what needs to be done. His cabinet is still battling to make their sectors work correctly. It just shows what decades of mismanagement and corruption can do. You know, it's like driving a car and never putting oil into it, never changing the oil filter, spark plugs, putting in bad gas, leaving it out in the weather. And that economy has been misrun. The country's been misrun now for decades, unfortunately. And they've got to diversify, and they can. Zambia has great soil. You know, its agricultural sector should be booming. It has water resources. It has coal resources, but they haven't built a new power plant in many, many decades. And you know, building another giant international airport when they couldn't even fill their old airport. So I think there's been gross misallocation of resources in Zambia, gross corruption. And mining, they've got to diversify out of just copper. You know, they have manganese deposits. They have iron deposits. They have great coal deposits. We know they have some good base metals other than copper, and gold is almost untouched. And we believe they have much more gold than they realize. But you need exploration for that. You need a good environment. And they have done a lot of things right on policy. You go to the mining endowments worldwide, you'll see there's a lot of exploration going on in Zambia now. So they're on the right track. They just have to improve the administration.
Right. And hopefully they do all of that. So, but just to pick your brain a bit, where do you see all of this coming into play in the near term?
Say, where do I see the commodities in the near term?
Yes.
I'm worried that they may come off a little bit more. We're still sitting on pretty high commodity prices, especially if we look at gold and copper. I think they're the two scariest ones right now. They're trading way above their long-term averages. The other base metals like zinc and lead, nickel, aluminum, they're trading at a pretty normalized level. I can't see them falling much more. PGM prices, they're trading at much more reasonable levels. So I don't think we're going to see too much higher prices than we are now. I think we're more likely to see lower prices. But for Zambia, that's not a train smash. These are still decent prices. You know, their economy, their currency will allow them to undercut a lot of other producers. You know, their working costs should be near the lower quartile, much lower than Chile, I think. They can do it.
That's good to know. Peter Major, Director of Mining at Modern Corporate Solutions. It's always a pleasure to have you on Energy Frontiers. Thank you so much, Peter.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. And that's it on our Energy Quick Chat. Thank you everyone for taking time to watch. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to see more videos like this, and follow Frontier Africa Reports across all our social media handles. I am Justina Okechukwu. Bye for now.